Welcome to Business Unveiled Podcast. This is the place where we help overwhelmed, time-starved entrepreneurs like you make the profitable shifts to get more done and get more out of life. I'm your host, Angela Proffitt, award-winning 8-figure entrepreneur and CEO. And in every episode of Business Unveiled, I'm bringing you conversations that will give you the expertise and strategies that will scale your team and business so you can get shit done. That's GSD in our world. So get your time back and grow a business that helps you be present in your life. Let's do this, y'all. Today's guest, they are a powerhouse husband and wife. They have a startup company together that was kind of discovered on their honeymoon right after they got married. Their story is super cute, so hilarious. His background, he was in sales for the past decade with businesses ranging from small tech startups to publicly traded software companies. It all began in 2010. He loves to network and make connections and help other entrepreneurs along the way. They are disrupting the greeting card industry and the events industry with a really innovative way to preserve cards, messages, and memories forever. Of course, my favorite, in the cloud, where you can search it, access it, and travel the world, but still have your memories. His partner in crime, she is a full-time mompreneur, spending her days raising her 2 beautiful children. Her background is in marketing and client services. And over the past few years, she's been applying all of these skills to helping get their business off the ground, really focusing on getting feedback from all the beta customers to enhance the website and the future launch of E-Bration. Shea and Jeff Cohen, welcome to the show. Hi, y'all. It's Angela. I'm back for another episode of Business Unveiled. I'm so excited for our guest today because I've known them for I feel like a really long time. They've been working on this amazing project that just sits very near and dear to my heart because you guys know that I'm not the biggest fan of paper. And when I get a birthday card or a Christmas card or cards for special occasions, which I actually love them. But the problem is I never want to throw them away. And then I travel a lot and I move a lot. And it's like when you go from place to place, you have all this shit with you, like the cute big hat boxes from TJ Maxx. And so, and then you can't sort the stuff, right? So it's just not efficient to go back and look at these things. And so when I met this couple through another tech company that I work with, Fitfully, I'm like, oh my God, I love this idea. And I love what you guys are doing because this makes it so much easier for people to really store their memories in the cloud. And so if there's a fire, if there's a flood, which we've been through both, it doesn't matter because all of your memories, special memories, will be saved and backed up somewhere. So we're going to talk a little tech on you today, and it's a different modern way of thinking when you're doing something special for someone for any type of occasion. So welcome to the show, Jeff and Shea. How are y'all?
Hi. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
I'm super excited. Before we jump off and start talking about the platform and all that, I want you guys to take us back and let us know just a little bit about your journey. I know it, but everyone listening and watching is not going to know it because I want them to know, where did this idea come from and how did you get the ball rolling of even saying, okay, we're going to start this amazing platform. So there has to be a story, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique story, and people are always a little wondering if that's really how it all started. But yeah, so this idea actually came about from our own wedding night when we were opening up all of our cards and reading all of the messages from our family and friends. A light bulb kind of just went off, and obviously we've gotten cards before and we've given cards before, but for an event as special as a wedding, I just thought to myself, it would be really special if there was a way to just digitally preserve this without having to keep all these cards in a shoebox somewhere or a drawer. So I know e-cards have been around for a while. So I was doing some research, but the one thing I noticed they all had in common was that they're all just email delivery, which means they're all just kind of scattered throughout your inbox. There's not really any kind of like organized, structured way to go back and look at them all. So I thought to myself, there has to be a market for this. And I'll let Shea fill in the next part of the story, which is when I told her about it, which was when we landed at our honeymoon.
So this was, I guess, ball rolling in his head. Luckily kept it to himself because I was, just wanting to go
Bradland.
I could just, going back, I wish I could be like a fly on the wall to see, because I saw, every card that we would open, he would, write Excel spreadsheet, Mr. Spreadsheet over here, type in the person's name, type in what they gave, so we had it all documented, right? So I'm just like looking at him like, all right, when are we going to Bora Bora? Like whatever, like not even, just like finishing up my packing. So we land in LA, we have a layover, and it was funny, my sister's best friend, who was one of my bridesmaids, we dropped her off at her apartment in Santa Monica. So we're just all chit-chatting. She flew with us on the first leg of our honeymoon. It's like my favorite part of.
That's funny.
It's like the best, it's my favorite. And so Kate and, Jeff and I were at In-N-Out, we're like chatting. I could see Jeff's like, kind of like in thought. I'm like, whatever, not thinking about it. We drop her off. I'll never forget. We're at the first stoplight and he's like, I have a business idea. And I'm like,
can we just get married?
Yeah. I'm like, we're about to go on our honeymoon. And I told him, I said, so the best part of the story, and I should have maybe said this at the beginning, in his vows, he said that he was going to turn on his out of office and not look at emails for 2 weeks, which is, I think, unheard of in sales. I don't know.
You said it in your vows?
In his vows, he was like, I will not look at my computer for 2 weeks. And I was kind of like skeptical. There's no way he can do that, not look at his computer and make a sales call. So as soon as we land, or as soon as we're about to get to the hotel and he brings up business, I was like, what about the vows? And he's like, okay, just like, I think you told me the idea.
Yeah, just to get it out there.
Just to get it out. Told me the idea. And I said, talk to me at the end. I just want to be jumping into the ocean. I don't want to hear it. I got my I brought a raft with me, a cheeseburger raft from Maine. I'm traveling with it to Bora Bora. I don't want to hear business. I just want to be floating on a cheeseburger in the ocean or the lagoon, I just don't. So yeah, so that's
so we put a pause on it for a couple of weeks and then looked into it more when we got back.
When we got back, he was researching, trying to see if this idea kind of was out there. And what was it? Let's see, we got back end of September, and Columbus Day weekend I found out I was pregnant. So
that fast. Okay.
So we were doing a lot of different research. He was doing a lot of business, it doesn't exist. And I was all like, oh my God, what type of baby names? We were on different pages. But yeah, no, we started, just with the initial idea was just, weddings and saving, the cards. And, I saw when we came back from our honeymoon and we were depositing, the checks into the bank, and he's at Chase, with 50 checks, and, they only take 20 at a time or something.
Yes.
Whatever it is. And you're just like, it's just I don't even know where my check. I might not even have a checkbook. We do.
Yeah, I don't have checks.
Some people are still.
It's news to me, but
I don't have checks.
What is it for? I don't. One day we'll look back and we'll be like, what was this paper?
Yeah.
I just look at my online banking. I'm like, oh, there's that Amazon.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the journey started.
But
we were both working in the city, so we were we're still living in New York City, actually. We're living in New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in
November is when we moved.
Yeah, our lease ended November 1st. We moved to Stamford. I'm from Connecticut. And that's where we are right now. We're in Monroe. But yeah, we moved to Stamford, and that's where Jeff joined the
Entrepreneurial Society of Stanford. Yeah, there's a bunch of like entrepreneurial networking groups. That was kind of like where we first started making connections. And as you know, being in the industry, like the networking is just like a domino effect. Like we met you from a connection of a connection of a connection. So like
seriously,
it leads to somebody else, and like it just keeps growing. It's great.
How did you even? Because I mean, you've been growing this for a couple years. And so how did both of you like leave your previous roles? And then you're like, okay, we're going to be a startup. Like, how does somebody even go about that?
Yeah, it was definitely a big decision. We were both still working full time. And then Shea left her full-time position when our first son, Finn, was born. And I'm still working full time, but I work remotely. So I'm able to help Shea with this. And then of course now we have the 2 kids. So it's been a lot to juggle, but I remember when we had the conversation, if we were going to go forward with this, like right after we found out that you were pregnant, we said, this is like going to be a big, first of all, financial investment. It's going to, take up a lot of time. Like we have a child coming, like, is this the right time to do this? But then, life's only going to get busier, right?
Yep.
Like I remember looking back, like it's funny, we thought life was busy back then. Like, so like if we pushed it off, like I just know that we would have just kept making that excuse and it never would have started. So I'm glad we did it when we did, because now we're 3 years into it, and it was a whole journey up to where we are now, but I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, like at the beginning, just like looking back on it now, like I remember I would go to my doctor's appointments, and then I would be like walking back to work, and I would like stop at like a Starbucks, and like we had never, neither one of us have built a website, have never like done anything, like this. And I remember Jeff would be like, what is your vision for this page? And I'm like, my what? Like, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, I just went to hear like the heartbeat. I'm like, like my mind's like, in 2 different places. So I'm like trying to draw out like what, and like I wish we could see, like, we do have some pictures of like what the website first looked like. It was so different than what it looks like now. And I just remember like me just drawing at this Starbucks, and I'm like, maybe it'll look like this, but like I'm not like artistic and definitely can't draw to save my life. And I would show Jeff, and he'd be like, what is this? And I was like, oh, this is the vision. Like, and it's so funny because we would go meet, like we would meet with we got one of our advisors, Christine from the Connecticut business. What is it? The
Small Business Development Center in Connecticut. Yeah. And
we would like meet up with her, and we would bring Finn, and he was probably 5 months, 4 months, 5 months. And like anybody we would meet up with, we would bring Shaq, to our dog. He's 7, but at the time he was 5. And he's small. So it was our puppy and our little baby, who Shaq's also our baby, but they'd always be like, I can't believe you're starting a business with a baby. Like, it's so much. And I was like, at the time I was like, oh yeah, because you're like nursing, and then you're trying to do website stuff, and you're nursing. And now this year, so now that Finn's turned 2, now I'm like really getting what people meant. Like, I can't believe you're starting a business with a baby. Because when you have a baby, like that's easy. Like, oh my God, babies are like, you put them down, they sit there, you're just like, okay, they lie down. Toddlers are like a different animal.
Every day
like
is just complete chaos.
It's total chaos. So having a business with a toddler is just like, I don't even, half the time I'm like, did I brush my teeth today?
But
like,
what we've done, and you're on our email newsletter list, so you see this at the bottom of our monthly newsletter. We have an update from our chief toddler officer, Finn, and the chief baby officer, Lucy. So that's
it's so cute.
People updated.
Oh, they're so funny.
It's so cute. Do you think If there's like one thing, if y'all could go back and tell yourself one thing, like when you started, would that one thing be, oh, we should wait a year? Or would it be something totally different if you could go back and do something different?
No, if anything, I wish we would have started it sooner. Because if we waited even longer, we would have just been like, it's too crazy right now. We got to wait another year. And then like we never would have done
I
it.
was gonna say, if I could go back to me, like when Finn was 5 months old, I would say take a moment every day to be like, these are relaxing days. You think you're stressed, but that's no. And like just relish in the calm.
Well, I mean, even starting a bit, it's like having a child.
Oh yeah, it's like a
And
fourth baby.
This is another child.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is. And it
yeah.
never shuts off. It never, you know,
I know.
takes discipline to like shut it off and figure it out. So let's jump in a little bit and talk about like the function, like for anyone listening or watching who loves greeting cards,
Mhm.
but they like the idea of an online option. And I'm not talking about y'all like take a picture and then put your stuff like I used to do it in Evernote. I mean, I was
Mhm.
taking pictures of my cards and storing them in Evernote back in like, I think 2010 or 11.
You are way ahead of the time.
Yeah.
Oh but the reason is because my computer crashed right before I graduated college and I lost everything. And I was so devastated. And then a week later, my car was broken into. My planner, like my perfect little planner that had my monogram that my parents had gotten me. And it was like 4 years old and I'd like had everything I needed to do on it. And it was stolen. My purse was stolen. I didn't care about my purse, my wallet, none of that. I care about my planner because I didn't know what to do the next day. And those back to back just put me into this like depression of like, I can never, ever feel this way again. How can I make sure this never happens again? And at that time, it was called a floppy drive. So all my shit went on a floppy drive. And well, multiple floppy drives, actually. I had like a whole kit and they were like color coded with labels on them. And then
Drive.
and
Where
our
would you
like
even put a floppy drive these days?
oh, half the people that my nieces are like, what is that? And I'm like, just forget it. Google it. But it's just like, it's almost like something bad has to happen to you to have this horrible feeling of emptiness, of never wanting to experience that again. And so that's where I set off. I'm like, I'm going to become I didn't know I was going to become like as much of a tech geek and an Apple geek as I am, but any new technology that came out, I was always learning. And then I got into EMR, electronic medical records, and seeing all of this at a very, very young age really showed me what the future was going to look like for everything. And until you see it, it's hard to explain it. So talk us through what is the user experience? If anybody is listening or watching and they have a birthday or an anniversary or a wedding or a baby shower or something, any type of event or just special occasion, what would they do? To E-Bration.
I was just gonna say we just had our baptism, right? So we just had a baptism for the kids. And so do you want to just walk, we could, use that as an example. So let's say Angela, let's say, Angela's invited. So maybe like.
Yeah. So whenever you're having an event, basically you would create a page for that event with all the details, and that page would get sent to all the people on your guest list, all the friends and family that are being invited. And there's an option on the page. Do you want to send your card and message to the person who's being celebrated? So that way you don't have to bring a card with you. You don't have to mail anything. You don't have to email anything. And how this kind of differs from the traditional e-card route is that it's just stored all in one place. So now on the day of the event, so on the day of the baptism, we could go in and see all the cards that we got from our family and friends that attended, all in one online portal that we can go back and see forever. More especially, like you pointed out, that our kids can then go see. So you think about all the events that they're going to have coming up, all their birthday parties, graduations, things like that, they can now, have all those cards saved for them. So it's really about digitally preserving the memories, and it's, more about like a group activity, not just a single person sending a card, but really everybody who's connected to that family going to that event can all send it through the same place. But then
upload photos
and then upload photos from the event as well. So instead of having everybody text them all to the person or share on social media and then have to collect them all, there's an option on the page to upload photos. So that's where you could save all the memories in that regard. And then to your point about how you used to save all of your cards on your Evernote, you can also upload any physical cards to the event as well, because you're always going to have grandma or whoever send you a physical card, and you might want to save that too. So we have an option to upload those, or even offer it as a concierge service if you want us to upload them for you.
I think it's so cool, because it's like kind of a one-stop shop where it's like you get the card, you can get the message. Can they send a gift or
cash gifts? Yeah. So if you can, if you're giving a cash gift, which with weddings and other events is pretty common, there's an option to send it. And baptism. Yeah, there's an option. Yeah, there's an option to do that with it. Eventually we plan to work with like registries where that can kind of, be part of it too. Right now it's just cash gifts. So yeah, that can all be done in the same transaction.
And then can all the guests, like let's say there's 50 of us and all 50 of us send a card, can they all see each other's stuff, or it's just the person that is being celebrated? What's the delivery, and like what's that experience like? If I'm the receiver, what happens?
Yeah, so it's private to the receiver of the recipient of the event, but they're open to sharing it if they want to like have people take a look at everything. That's up to them, but really it's in their own password protected account. And then we have a product called a Member Ebook that if they want to order afterwards, that combines all the cards and photos. You can like match up each guest's photo with their card, and we can create an ebook out of that. And that's just a URL link that you can share with anybody if you want them to see it.
That's awesome. I think of like, my grandparents, my great grandparents, and, obviously technology, it wasn't anywhere where it is today, but it's like my mom has kept everything, like everything. And it's kind of annoying, but it's cute at like very specific times where she'll like pull things out of all of her, like each kid has a big chest of shit in there. But it's just memories, and it's neat for her to like pull those out. But I just think like today's kids, like y'all's kids and like the younger kids, because we're starting things off in technology, they'll be able to sort and like put their fingertips on things so much quicker than someone, like me, where we have to like go dig up family tree stuff because there's not even pictures, much less video, much less electronic cards or like something someone wrote you. So it's just, it's really neat that we're setting our future up to just have memories like accessible,
I
love it.
I totally agree. I was just at my mom's house. Or was it yesterday? Oh my God, the days. It's just yesterday. And she had this old photo album out, and it's photos of her mom and me, me as a baby. And it was from 1988. And we were like laughing because, there's so many pictures that are like blurry, or they're like out, they're super far away, they're super close up. And I said to my mom, I said, because, we've been in the generation of, we also, I've taken, the disposables, right? Like, of course. And I said to my mom, I said, how funny is it? Like, can you imagine, like, because I said, like, there was this one picture of me and it was like really cute. It looked just like Lucy, right? That's my daughter. And, but it was blurry. And my mom was like, if only like, there was a more, clear photo. But I said, how would you know? You took the photo and then you had to wait,
a week.
Go wait a week, and then you see the picture and you're like, oh darn, like
it is
crazy.
And I said, I could not imagine. And I, growing up in the 90s, like, of course I remember taking the pictures, but like now with the iPhone and like my photos of Finn, it's like this 100 times a day, boom, 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 boom. And then I look at them and I'm like, 500 of the same photos. Jeff makes fun of me all the time. And it's like, I was just saying to my mom, I was like, that is so crazy that you would take photos and you have no idea how they look. You have no idea. And then you
It's
put
like,
them in
what
an
world?
album. Like,
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't like this angle. We got to redo it.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy because like our kids,
insane.
like Finn's gonna look at photos. I'm like, I don't even know how to show him. I have like 40,000 pictures and he's 2 and a half.
And who knows what, photo technology is going to look like 10, 15 years from now. It's probably like what we're going through now is probably going to be like, oh, that's how you took it. It's probably going to be even more advanced 10, 15 years from now.
Yeah. Well, I always say to Jeff, I feel like Finn's kind of like our E-Bration guinea pig, because I feel like he had a Zoom, of course, for his first birthday. And so he has his first birthday. What does he have? His second in there?
Yeah, and then,
the baptism. So by the time like he's 18, he'll have had, his communion, he'll have his graduation, he'll have those big milestone birthdays when you're a kid. To a kid, it's every birthday, but 5, 10, and it'll be so cool for him to look back when he's, going off to college and it's like, oh my God, great Nana and auntie and so, all these beautiful messages people say, and it's just sweet to look back, like even, it's just nice.
And also too, it'll, I always find the time management and productivity in it, but I think because, clearly I'm in planning, but also too, if a family member is getting married or if a family member passes away and we have a celebration life, like everyone looks at me to put the videos and the pictures together. And then it's like going on a freaking treasure hunt that takes me so much effing time. And I'm like, and then there's a part where I just give up and I'm like, all right, I'm going to work with what I've got. And like, we're going to finish this because I'm going to give myself a timeline. And then I'm like OCD about some of the stuff. But what it does is it forces you to organize your stuff so that when your kids are that age, like I did that with SmugMug, which was an app a long time ago to manage photos because we get between 30 and 50,000 a month from like all the events and weddings we were doing. And so it's like, if you don't put them in folders and if you don't organize them, if you don't like heart your favorite, it's just like you're drowning in weeks. And it's a hard thing if someone suddenly passes and you're not expecting it. And then you have to sit there as a child or family. I've sat there going through stuff and it's like hard to relive those memories and like looking for things when like you don't want to be really doing that. So it's just like, it's so much better just to organize your stuff on the front end and just like a new baby or a baptism, but like a wedding, you're starting your life together. And so how about start with your shit organized so you can find,
one of our advisors pointed this out not too long ago, and it's like, not to sound morbid, but eventually people pass away and like it's such a perfect way to commemorate them at the funeral service. You have all of their big events and photos and messages from their family and friends all in one place. And, that's something that you can, of course, share with everyone at the service.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, it's all at the fingertips too. So like, there's some great things that came out of the pandemic. QR codes. People know how to use them now everywhere you go, a restaurant, whatever. And
I never knew until just recently.
Effective for tracking and marketing.
Love that.
And so it's like, if you have a QR code at the celebration of life or whatever, people walk in and they can like get all this. It's just, it's great that it's like at our fingertips to be able to offer these things. So if somebody was interested in doing it, like tell us, where would we go? What would we do? How would we get started? How long does it take from like beginning to end kind of thing? All the good stuff.
So The website is ebration.com. So ebration.com. If you're a new customer, there'll be a sign up link or a get started now link that you could put in your name, email, password. And then once you get in, there'll be an area to, create an event. And it'll, direct you with what fields have to be put in. And then essentially you have a few different ways to share it. You can we also do invitations. That's another thing we do. So if you're, looking to send out, it's just online invitations. So if you're open to digital invitations, you can send that out through us, which will of course include the link to the page. If you're doing invites separately, we have another way to email out or even text out the link to people. We now have a texting feature for that. Or for people with wedding websites and registries, this is something you can put right on your wedding website. We've had plenty of wedding customers just put it, right on their page on the Knot or Zola. So when guests are going to their page, they see, that they're collecting cards and monetary gifts if they are open to that through Ebration.
Which is awesome. So if you're a planner listening and you plan weddings, you plan events, baptisms, bar mitzvahs, parties, anything, this is something that, and again, because I love technology, naturally, if we plan or design anything, you're going to follow our process, which is all paperless in the cloud, very organized. And so when I learned about this, I'm like, oh my God, we have to add this to our couple's website because every couple gets a website. They all want it. Some are password protected, some are not.
Yeah.
And exactly what you just said, like on the registry tab, it's like, oh, leave an e-card. And then it takes people through the experience. And then they're like, oh, well, this was kind of neat. Like, how do I use that for something else, that they may be doing in the future with a child or family member or something like that. So it's just, it naturally for me as a tech geek, I'm like, oh my God, we have to do this. And so from a cost perspective, talk us through what does that look like as far as the cost?
Yeah. So right now we're not charging anything to use the platform itself. So it's free to sign up and create an event. It would cost the user if they're going to use our invitations. So those are anywhere between $20 and $30, which is pretty standard for online invitations.
Yeah.
Similar for thank you cards. We do online thank you cards too, so it'd be a similar cost there. And then we have that memory book that you can order at the end of the event, which combines all the cards and messages and photos, and that's around $75. So those are the products and services that people can buy. And then your guests who send cards through the site, it's $2 per card to send a card through the site. So that's kind of all the different pricing metrics.
But if I think about it, like if I have to go get a card, I have to drive to the store. I have to read through a bunch of freaking cards that I don't have time for. And then like look for something that's pretty and then stand in line and then check out. It's like, I haven't done that shit in a very long time, but most like my mother's generation. Now I buy my mother cards for everything because she loves cards. Like that's something that she loves. And like you do it for the people like that. But come on, like in 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, like these kids are not going to be like, Mama, take me to go pick out a card for a birthday. Like it just doesn't work anymore,
I know. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So I mean, like this is definitely aimed at like the host of the event, but it's very beneficial to the guests too. So you don't have to, like you said, make that stop at CVS and get a card, especially for wedding cards. Now we're like $10. It's crazy to buy a wedding card.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
I'd rather give, a Starbucks gift card. I'd rather buy you $10 worth of Americanos than buy like, wouldn't you rather a $10 Starbucks gift card than getting a $10 card that you're gonna.
And then the stress of getting cash or a check to put in the card. We had a wedding over the summer. It was hysterical. Like the ceremony started at 4:00, and I'm not even kidding you. Between 4 and 5, we had like 10 people send their card and gift through Ebration. They must have like forgotten to bring it to the wedding, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I could just send it here." So I mean, it's the people who forget or are late to getting it. It's just it's a lot easier.
Yeah, I mean, even if as a guest coming in, if you forgot to just order anything, it's like you can scan the QR code and like do it right there. So it's just the time savings and the convenience of it is so much it's just such a better option in my mind. Like, it just makes
Yeah.
sense. And then I love the fact that people can share their photos, because oftentimes, and for some reason, probably because of this podcast and other YouTube videos that I do, people come up to me and they're like, "Can you fix my phone? Can you fix this?" And I'm like, "Well, you're out of space. So that's why people can't airdrop photos to you right now. And the internet really bad here, or you're not on the same Wi-Fi." Like, there's just too many things. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of running an event, not a Mac class. So I'm like, a different time. But if you give them a link, then that removes all that stress of like trying to text pictures and airdrop pictures, because it when you text pictures and especially videos back and forth to people, it takes up your space. Like, it eats up your
Yeah.
space.
I
My
didn't
computer.
know that too until a friend told me about
Oh,
how much space gets taken. I was like, oh my God, I had no idea.
yeah. One of my computers was out of space the other day. And so, go up to the little Apple and you go to storage, and then it will organize like your biggest documents. And then some of it's like old. And I'm like, oh, I can delete that and get rid of the trash to free up space. And so my number one was email, which I don't even do email. Like, it's on my machine, but there was over 50 gigs of information sitting in our email. And so I'm like, "Amanda, do we need to clean some things up?" And she goes, "No, that's not our company email. That's your personal email." And I never check it. I don't check it. Like, I suck at it. And so I'm like, well, then I'm just going to go through and delete everything or just start a new email. Like, that's in my head. I'm like, oh, I'll just clear it out, because the likelihood of me needing something in there to go back to it is very slim to none. Like, if I haven't touched it in 3 months, like, I'm probably good, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like, but number two was text messages. Number two. And so I had to go through, and it's not me sending stuff out because I don't really like to do that. That's why I like Marco Polo for texting, for video texting, because it's not using my space. It's not taking anything up. It lives in the cloud on their server. And so you don't know these problems until you start having space problems. And this is just one example of like, oh my God, I'm sending, too many pictures back and forth. So anyway, it's just, technology is amazing. And the way that you all have built it out, and clearly I know too much, y'all, because, I work with you guys, but I just think that how you have put together like this dashboard of like all the years where it's like always accessible, and then having everything in one place is going to make it just easier for people moving forward. So, did you have like an inspiration of like, okay, we're going to do all these different things, so let's everyone have like their own dashboard of like cards? Or was that a developer's idea where?
Well, yeah, actually the lifetime dashboard, like we said, it started out with our wedding, so that was just one event, of course. And then it was through actually working with Marie Roca, we would be, going back and forth brainstorming. And I forgot like what she said, but it was like having everything kind of together, and we kind of like we like came up with this kind of like the lifetime dashboard, because it's like all of the events should be together. You should be able to click 2021 and see, Finn's second birthday, his baptism, click 2019 or 2020, I mean, his first birthday, but chronologically, like you said, the organization, have everything go back, we'll be in the year 2050. He can go back and be like, oh my God, what was my 5th birthday? Or what was my, high school graduation? Or what was this? And to be able to just go back and click, like I have to do that in my phone all the time. Like I'll have said something to Jeff and I'm like, oh my God, what? And I'll have to search the text through like, and I'm like, if only it was organized that way, where I could be like, all things medical, or like all things this, or, it makes it so much easier just to look back and to see the clear organization of it all.
Yeah. I mean, what was interesting is, we kind of planned on doing that eventually, because we wanted to kind of like just tackle one market at a time, focus on weddings, and then we'll build in the rest later. And we were about to launch in like early 2020. We had like all of our like beta wedding customers lined up, and then the pandemic happened and everybody was postponing their weddings. And then we were like, well, like we have to get like beta feedback before we publicly launch, and like who knows what's going to happen with the wedding industry right now. So we were like, well, let's just build out the rest of the site. We got to have people test it out for, you know, birthdays and things that are not as, you know, large gatherings as weddings. So that's the pandemic kind of, you know, propelled that a little bit for us. And now when we launched, we had the full platform. So it worked out in that way.
Yeah. I mean, some great things came out of it, you know, I mean, if we're not like being pushed, and if we're not stressed a little bit, and if we're too comfortable, we're not growing. And I mean, it just, when things get tough, sometimes great things come out of it. I love the word propel, like propel forward. Yeah. So one other big thing that I want to mention too, like, again, as a planner, I'm kind of like a control freak when it comes to like, well, everything about planning, but keeping up with the RSVPs and who the hell's eating what when you give choices. And when you give 4 and 5 choices, and there's vegetarian, pescatarian, diabetic, gluten-free. I mean, there's just so many effing details, and I don't trust people. We do it all. They come to my freaking office and we do it. And there's a gold person in True Colors who does it in the psychology methodology that I love. So it's very intentional. And so you all have and I know there's other sites that have RSVP tracking capabilities. And I also know some planners don't get involved in all this, but if you ever are going to grow your company in planning, and you look for platforms that make things easy for you to where you can do multiple things at once. And when somebody needs something or a guest needs something, like, they always come to the planner. We potty train them that way. We have our information on the website. We tell them to contact us for anything, parking, weather, gifts. Oh my gosh, the funny emails we get about registries and gifts. And yes, we track the RSVPs. And then you would be shocked at how many people send their RSVP. They don't put their initials on what they want. And then they don't even fill in their effing name. So we number
we had a few of those.
Yeah. It's like we number the back of all the cards with like this little neon pin that they can't see. You put it under a light. But anyway.
Yeah, that's what we did too. Yeah.
But now there's, the online RSVP tracking where it kind of does it for you, and it's more so on the guests than anything. And the guests can't move forward until they choose like the choices, and then it'll send to us. So just by streamlining that process and putting it back on the guest, it saves the client so much money, and it saves everybody so much time. And then you just click a button and it exports, and then you know how many chicken, how many beef, how many fish, how many pescatarian, how many vegetarian, how many gluten-free, how many diabetic. It's amazing.
We added
so much fun. You're only doing the shit. So I just want to mention that, because as a planner, like, there's so many great things that it's like, not that we, if a client doesn't want it, they don't have to have it, but it's like a value add to a service that you're organizing everything for them. And then later in the years, they're going to come back and be like, hey, what was that thing for our wedding? Because now we have kids and, we want to do that. So it's just for really any life event. I think it's great what you guys have come up with. Okay. I have one more question. What's one thing that you do every day to try to be productive? And I say try because I know you have 2 young children. And having like my sister's kids here recently, I'm like, oh my God, how? And they're not babies. It's crazy. I'm like, I would be a drinker or addicted to probably something that I shouldn't be addicted to just to get through the day. It's just a lot of stimulation, when you're not used to it. But is there one thing that you do to like just help you GSD? Just one thing from a productivity standpoint?
I feel like just time management is such an important factor when, we're juggling the business. I work full time. We have the 2 kids. I'm home. So it is a lot to juggle. So, I always make sure to at least kind of put like together a checklist of like what has to be done today and like what can be pushed off till tomorrow. And I know you try to like organize with the kids sometimes where like there's some downtime where like, like this is probably like when you can. focus
Yeah,
more.
I love these whiteboards. There's like a little whiteboard back there, and I love, like, getting my little expo marker, and I'll be like, the goal for the day, that one goal. It's like when there's too many goals, you're setting yourself up, for failure.
Exactly, to your point. When you say you're going to do too many things, you're setting yourself up for failure. So just pick a big thing and try to do that one thing each day. Like, that's super smart. So if people want to check it out, where should they go?
Yep. So the website is ebration.com, EBRATION. And we're E-Bration on Facebook, E_Bration on Instagram. So you can follow us there as well.
Awesome. And we'll put all the links on the blog and on social media. Thank you so much for sharing your story, guys. This was awesome.
Thank you so much. Oh, and then really quick, I think you also wanted to mention to your event plan.
Yes, guys. We're going to have a webinar and actually demonstrate like how to use it and show anybody can get on it if you're interested in putting your greeting cards in the cloud and sending them that way. So be sure to watch it. We'll put it on social media, and like when it's going to be, we'll give you a few weeks heads up, but we do have something coming up so that if you're interested in walking through, I know that like some people I learn from like watching a video. Amanda learns by like actually doing it, walking through. So we all learn differently. So I think it's good to have these info sessions and these info webinars so that if people are interested, then they can actually see it in action and see how easy it is and how much time that it saves. And so we will definitely be letting you guys know when that's going to be.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Thanks so much for having us, Angela.
You're so welcome. And everybody that's listening or watching, thank you so much for your time. We know how precious it is. And I hope you guys have a great day, and be sure to tune in next week to another episode of Business Unveiled. Bye, y'all. That's it for this week's episode of Business Unveiled. Now that you have all the tools that you need to conquer the world and GSD, get shit done, would you share this with your friends and fellow business leaders? One thing that would really, really help us and help new listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a comment in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in and listen to Business Unveiled. You can check out the show notes at angelaproffitt.com/podcast and link up with us on social media so you can share your biggest insights. And I want to know your aha moments. Until next week, remember, the profitable shifts and structures you're creating in your business help you be more present in your life. So get out there and GSD.